Are you intimidated by older techniques like teabag folding? I was until I tried it with these innovative dies from Rodgers and Creative Expressions. Hello and welcome to Karen's Creative Cards on YouTube. I am Karen Hashik and I always wanted to try teabag folding, but I was intimidated by how hard it looked until I tried these dies which do all the scoring so the folds are perfect every time. There are instructions inside that teaches you the several basic folds, and I tried 2 of them to make the cards that I share in this video. Teabag folding is a kind of origami that was developed late in the 20th century in Holland. Origami itself, of course, is a Japanese art of paper folding that dates back forever and ever. Teabag folding was developed by a Dutch woman named Tiny Vanderplas. This new kind of origami that Ms. Vanderplas developed is made by using small square pieces of paper like packets that tea bags come in and folding them in such a way as to create a 3-dimensional interlocking design. Now I first bought the circle design with the matching stamps from Creative Expressions and Rodgers. You get 2 different sizes in each set, and there is a matching stamp set, and I made this card. It was my first one, and it wasn't hard at all to do, following their instructions and using their die. But then I found if I used pretty pattern designer paper, especially if it was 2-sided, it was so easy to make the circle designs even without the stamping, as you can see in these examples. Now, of course, all the details on all the cards and the products used will be on my blog, and links are in the description box to those blog posts and the products featured. Now, if the paper is not 2-sided, like this one has a white background, I found that I liked gluing down the first layer so that white didn't show, and the medallion or the circle piece lays a little flatter, as I did in the first couple samples. So this is one that I did where I did glue down that bottom layer and it lays a little bit flatter. Here's another one that I did with some really pretty paper and a stencil, which is also a medallion behind it. But here's an example of one that I made where I didn't glue down that bottom layer. So it is more dimensional, it stays up, and I like both of those. I was concerned, however, about mailing it. So I sent a friend of mine 2 of these. One was like this, one was like with no gluing down, so it was quite high, and one was glued down. But after mailing, they didn't get ruined, but they are still much flatter. What I did was, the reason I have this, I put a thin piece of cardboard on top of them, and I didn't put them on a card, but I mailed them to her, and they still look good, but they are quite a bit flatter. So you could choose, if you're giving it in person, certainly you could have the higher one, but you don't need to glue them down because once they go through the mail, I added an extra stamp, of course, because they are, quite dimensional, but I didn't need any special handling or anything like that. So I thought I would share that information. So after I got the circle one, I saw some people online who were just using a circle die without any scored lines and making circular teabag medallions. And since I have dozens of circle dies, I tried it. But I found it very difficult to get the lines perfectly straight as you do the 4 different folds. The dies give you perfect score lines to make easy teabag folding, and when I tried to just do it with a regular circle die, I had difficulty, so I was glad I had purchased these. And then I found the pointy petals one. So these are a little more interesting. They're not, a perfect circle shape, it has pointy petals on there. And here's the first one that I made with that. So instead of a perfect circle, we now have a little more definition to these edges. And again, that set is called Pointy Petals. And you do get two different sizes again. And there are matching stamps to this one as well. And then on the inside it does explain 4 different folds. I'm just going to do the basic fold, and then I'm going to do a little bit with this one as well. And I will show you how easy that is to do. So again, here's the first one I did with that pointy petals. So I am going to demonstrate that one. So here's how we do the tea bag folding easily with these Jamie Rodgers Creative Expressions tea bag folding collection. I'm going to demonstrate with the larger of the pointy petals set. So the first thing you're going to do is cut 8 of this whichever die you're using, okay? You cut 8 of them, and I am using two-sided designer paper, and you could, I don't know if you can see that on there, but the score lines, you can probably see it on the die better. There are 4 different lines that you fold on, and it's really, really easy to do. So basically you're just folding it in half and then folding it in half again as you go around on those lines. Now, because I'm using a thin weight designer paper, and I do recommend the thinner weight, the thicker it was, the harder it was to do. I don't feel the need to use a bone folder on this part of it. So I am just doing the 4 folds. And then all you do is you take one of these sides and you fold it in. You give it a pinch and you fold it in. And then I do use my bone folder. I have my good Teflon one here from Cat Scrappiness. And that is the start. Then I just, I put my fingernail up here, and you're folding the top layer over to the center. And you want the edges to be even, and you want a nice point there. And again, I do use a good strong Teflon bone folder. And then you take the second side, and again, you're trying to line up the bottom here, and then you're trying to get a nice point there. So that's all there is to the basic tea bag folding fold. Okay, so excuse me, it's that simple. So I have taken a punched circle, and it's a little bit smaller than what this is going to be. And I punched a hole, poked a hole in the center there because I am going to put a brad through there. You can put a gem if you like, or you can just leave it. But I like, especially on these bigger ones, I like to put a brad, a pretty decorative brad there. So how I have been, you can use glue to attach this, but I have been finding it fast and easy just to take a large glue dot, and I put it on the end there, and then I am going to aim for that circle, that punched hole, which is going to have, like I said, have a brad, but that is the center of that. Now I have done 8 of these with that same paper, and I'm going to take another large glue dot, and then on this one I want to slide this piece in here and get it as close as possible, and each time when you go in, you're going to slide in there and attach the next one. So once again, you're kind of lifting this up. getting underneath there and putting that together. The ideal is to have these two next to each other line up completely as you push it in there. But sometimes they don't quite go all the way in, but that's okay. It ends up being really pretty no matter what. And I'm sure there are people who are experts out there who could, you know, maybe they're all 100% perfect, but so far I've liked every one I've done. So again, we're sliding under here, and you're trying to get this to line up. Putting this one under there and getting as close as possible. Sliding that one in. Now the last one I have been using glue with because I have to get it underneath here and pushed in as far as possible. So I like a little more flexibility than the glue dot does grab, and sometimes you can't get that pushed in as much. And some people, I'm sure, would prefer to use glue on the whole thing. I always figure if I don't have to wait for it to set up before I move on, that's a good thing. But sometimes you do want that flexibility. So that was the last one. And then I'm going to take a decorative brad and put it through here. And our medallion, or doily, I think sometimes they called it that. There was another word too, but I'm not remembering it. But anyway, our pretty decorative medallion piece is done. It is rather high, rather dimensional, but again, I would mail it on a card, put a piece of cardboard, or give this card in person. So there's another fold on the packaging, and it is just slightly different, so I'm going to show that to you. And then it kind of reminded me like of a little vase, and so I'm going to use it on the corners of my card and put some little not flower stems, but greens in there. So this is the, I folded all the 4 lines and I pushed in the center. And so normally, and this is the smaller of the medallions, I would, let's do a pinch up here. I just take my fingernail and kind of get it started. And then I do a fold down there, and then I do another fold here, and you try to get the lines lined up and a rather nice point at the top. But on this one, instead of doing it that way, although I get it started that way, I'm going to take that top fold and I'm going to fold it under instead of on top. And then I'm going to take this side, I hope you can see that, although it's, I'm also taking it and folding it under instead of on top. And then I'm going to go ahead and glue this bottom piece here together, because I would like this to be a little flatter on the bottom. Hold that for a second. And I have my little vase, and it's going to be a decorative corner. So that's another purpose for these dies and for this tea bag folding. You can make decorative pieces like these for the corners of your cards. I'm just going to put 2 on the bottom. So I have a card base that is 6 1/4 tall by 10 1/2 inches wide, and I folded it in half. The card front is 5 by 6. As I needed a larger card for this larger pointy petals rosette. That's what they're calling it, is a rosette. It kind of looks like a medallion to me, but a rosette is what they often call it. And so I am going to put this on the card front, and then I'm going to use these in the corners. So this can be attached with glue, or I think I'm just going to use some two-sided score tape because, again, I don't have to wait for it to set up, and it holds it just fine. That started here. So our pretty rosette or medallion is going to go about there. If I wanted it to lay flatter now, I could glue in these pieces on the bottom, but this is a really pretty two-sided paper, and so if I hand this card to somebody, it'll be very dimensional, and if I mail it, it will probably be a little flatter. I've used the other side of this two-sided paper to make these little vases, and I am going to use a glue dot to attach those in the corner. So see how pretty decorative corner that makes. And if I hadn't used the large rosette or die, I could put in all four sides, but I like it just this way. And it would be pretty just like that, but I have some greens that I cut out with a die from Cat's Scrappiness, and I am just going to add those to our little vases here with some glue. Make a mess. See if we like this one or if it's too tall. A little bit, maybe. So our card is done. It was that easy. You just cut 8 of those die cut shapes, do a little folding, put it together. You can choose to do a decorative corner with them as well. Put them on a card, and I think that's just beautiful. I have another one I did very similar to that with some different paper. I think both these papers are from Stampin' Up. I just am really, really loving the way this is turning out. I had great fun doing tea bag folding for the first time for these cards, now that I have these dies that make it so easy. I hope my cards in this video encourage you to give it a try. Thanks for stopping by, and watch the next video for some more ideas with some of the awesome die sets available today.